Okay, let's dive in. Imagine this. It's April 30th, just this year, 2025, a village called Kothapalem in Andhra Pradesh. Seems like any other day, right?
Right, just the usual village life.
Yeah.
But underneath that, something pretty significant was happening legally.
Exactly. It all comes down to a new ruling from the Andhra Pradesh High Court.
And this ruling tackles a really core question. If someone from a scheduled caste converts to Christianity, what happens to their SE status?
And the High Court's answer was quite definitive, wasn't it?
Very. They basically said if you convert to Christianity, you lose that scheduled caste designation, period.
So just to make sure we're all clear on this,
Yeah.
someone born into a scheduled caste community in Andhra, if they become Christian, this ruling says they're no longer protected under the SCST Act.
That's the crux of it, yes. It's not just like a theoretical point either. This whole thing started with the specific incident.
Back in 2021.
January 2021, yeah. A complaint was filed by a pastor, Chintada Anand. He claimed that another person in the village, Akkala Ramireddy, and some others, had hurled caste-based insults at him.
And because Pastor Anand identified as belonging to a scheduled caste, he went to the police invoking the SCST Act for protection.
Precisely. And the police, followed procedure. They registered a case against Ramireddy and his associates under that act.
Standard operating procedure, seems like.
It seemed that way. The investigation started. But then Ramireddy decided to fight back, challenging the very basis of the complaint.
How so? What was his argument?
Well, his legal team went to the High Court and essentially asked, does the SCST Act even apply here? Their point was that Pastor Anand, having converted to Christianity and actually serving as a pastor for like a decade, he shouldn't qualify for protection under a law designed for scheduled castes within primarily the Hindu fold.
Ah, okay. So the argument was essentially new religion, different rules, you can't claim protection under the old system, kind of.
You got it. It was a direct challenge based on his conversion and his role as the pastor. It really set the stage for the High Court to weigh in.
And Justice N. Haranath presided?
Yes, and Justice Haranath ultimately sided with Ramireddy's argument. The core finding was clear. Conversion to Christianity means losing your scheduled caste status.
Even if you still have, say, a government-issued caste certificate.
That's what the court said. The certificate doesn't override the fact of conversion, in their view.
Wow. So what's the legal foundation for that? Where does that come from in the Constitution or law?
It goes back to paragraph 3 of the Constitution, Scheduled Castes, order from 1950. That's the key document.
Okay, 1950. And what did that say initially?
Initially, it stated that only Hindus could be considered part of a scheduled caste for the purposes of the Constitution.
Only Hindus.
At first, yes. Then amendments were made. Sikhs were included in 1956, and later Buddhists in 1990.
But not Christians or Muslims.
Correct. They have remained outside that specific definition in the 1950 order. So the court was basically interpreting the law as it currently stands, with those specific inclusions.
So it wasn't just this judge creating a new rule out of thin air. There's history here.
Absolutely. And the court didn't just rely on the 1950 order. It also pointed to existing case law. There was a significant Andhra Pradesh High Court case from 2016, Chintada Anand versus the state.
And what did that case establish?
It supported the same principle that converts to Christianity can't claim protections under the SCST Act. The reasoning often cited is that the act was primarily intended to combat discrimination arising from the Hindu caste system and untouchability.
Right. The idea being that since Christianity, at least theologically, doesn't have a caste system, the specific protections linked to that system don't apply after conversion.
That's the legal logic they followed, yes.
But the court didn't stop there, did it? They also looked into the original complaint itself, the alleged insults.
They did. And this is a really important part of the ruling. They examined the evidence around Pastor Anand's complaint and, well, they concluded he had misused the act.
Misused it. How? By filing a false complaint.
That's what the court determined, yes. They found the complaint to be false based on witness testimony.
And wasn't there testimony from someone quite close to him?
Yes, that was quite striking. Witnesses, including Pastor Anand's own wife, testified that he had been actively working as a pastor for about 10 years.
Okay.
He even held a leadership position in a pastor's fellowship. This testimony kind of undermined the claim that he was primarily experiencing life and discrimination as a member of a scheduled caste at that point.
I see. So his role as a pastor was central to the court's assessment of the complaint's validity.
It was a major factor. Plus, the court found the evidence for the actual caste-based abuse pretty weak. Witnesses didn't really back up his specific claims, and any medical evidence of injury was described as minimal.
So it was a two-pronged finding, though. Likely ineligible for the Act's protection due to conversion, and the complaint itself seemed unfounded.
Exactly. And Justice Haranath didn't mince words about the police either.
Oh, what was the issue there?
The judge criticized the police for not doing their homework, essentially, for not properly checking Pastor Anand's religious status before registering the case under the SCST Act.
So the police should have verified his religion first.
Yeah, was the court's view. As a result of all this, the entire case against Ramireddy and the others was quashed, thrown out.
Okay, stepping back from the specific village and the individuals,
Yeah.
what does this ruling mean more broadly? What are the ripple effects?
Well, it definitely reinforces the legal stance within Andhra Pradesh, at least, that SC status under the current law is tied to being Hindu, Sikh, or Buddhist. It significantly impacts how the SCST Act can be applied when conversion is involved.
And it feeds into that larger ongoing debate, doesn't it, about whether SC status should be linked to religion at all.
Absolutely, it throws fuel on that fire. This debate has been going on for decades, really, ever since the 1950 order.
Because the argument from the other side is that changing religion doesn't necessarily change the social reality, right?
Exactly. Many argue that Dalits who convert to Christianity or Islam often face very similar kinds of discrimination and social stigma from society, even if their new religion doesn't have caste. So they argue they still need protection.
And we've seen attempts to change the law itself.
We have. Just last year, in 2023, the Andhra Pradesh Assembly actually passed a resolution. They formally asked the central government to amend the rules to include Dalit Christians, essentially extending SC status to them.
But that hasn't happened.
No. And there's significant opposition. Groups like the BJP, for instance, have argued against it, often raising concerns that it might dilute the benefits meant for the currently recognized SC communities.
It's incredibly complex, layers upon layers of history, law, and social reality.
It really is. And just to add another piece to the puzzle, the central government actually set up a commission.
Oh, right. I remember hearing about that.
Led by former Chief Justice K.G. Balakrishnan. Its whole purpose is to study this exact question, whether SC status should be extended to Dalit converts to Christianity and Islam.
And when are they supposed to report back?
The report is expected sometime around October 2025, so later this year, which means this conversation is far from over.
Definitely not. So this High Court ruling, while specific to Andhra Pradesh in this case, is really just one moment in a much larger evolving story about religion, identity, and justice in India.
Precisely. It connects the dots between a local dispute and these huge national questions.
It really makes you, the listener, think, doesn't it? When you consider this case, the history, the arguments on both sides, how do you balance religious freedom with the undeniable need to address deep-rooted social injustices and provide legal protection for those who face discrimination, regardless of the label?
Yeah, what's the fairest way forward? There are no easy answers here. But this case, originating from that village, Kothapalem, has certainly brought the complexities right back into the spotlight. It's something worth keeping an eye on and thinking deeply about.